You feel the pressure, don't you? That subtle, constant weight upon your shoulders, the unconscious reckoning of every past decision, stretching back not just years, but lifetimes. This is what the ancients called karma, and its shadow often feels inescapable, like an energetic debt that can only be paid through slow, agonizing increments. You are trapped, as many believe, in a long, difficult repayment plan dictated by the cosmic ledger. But what if I showed you the architectural flaw in that ironclad system? What if I told you, not as a matter of religious faith or abstract theology, but as a verifiable energetic truth meticulously documented by the sleeping prophet Edgar Cayce, that there exists a single potent signal, a profound act of inner grace, so powerful it doesn't just reduce your karmic debt, but cancels it entirely, instantaneously clearing the ledger. I can hear the immediate, low hum of your pragmatic mind. That calculating voice, built on scarcity, and the hard evidence of physical existence, is already whispering warnings. It's dismissing this as pure spiritual escapism, a utopian concept too soft for the hard realities of cause and effect. That analytical voice is essential for navigating the physical plane, but it fundamentally misunderstands the mechanism of divine intervention. I invite you to silence that inner skeptic, just for a moment, and consider the possibility that universal law is not a rigid prison, but a system waiting for the proper high-frequency code. We are not talking about simple, superficial repentance, X. This isn't about wearing sackcloth, repeating meaningless affirmations, or making a small charity donation in hopes of a large cosmic refund. This sign is far deeper. It is a profound internal realignment, a moment of such radical acceptance and total surrender that the universal law of reciprocity, karma, is momentarily suspended. It is a signature frequency that overrides all prior energetic agreements. Do you ever feel an intense, sudden craving for release, a desperate sense that the long, grinding battle you've been fighting internally must simply stop, regardless of the outcome? That sensation is not simple mental fatigue. It is your soul attempting to reach for this exact release valve. Think of karma as an immense, complex dam built over millennia. Most people focus their entire existence on chipping away at the stones, one tiny deed at a time. The grace sign, however, is the master key to the hidden floodgate. Cayce didn't invent this sign, he codified it. He explained precisely how the universe recognizes this unique energetic signature and why it acts as a cosmic override. It is a sign that many encounter briefly, perhaps in moments of deep crisis or profound stillness, but few recognize or know how to cultivate intentionally. Are you ready to stop battling the current of your past and instead harness the power that allows the universe to simply erase the score? This isn't merely a theory of salvation. This is the mechanism for absolute immediate freedom, accessible to you right now. The sign is far simpler and far more demanding than you can possibly imagine. We must first address the heavy burden you carry, the profound exhaustion that precedes true transformation. The sign, which promises the immediate cancellation of the karmic score, triggers an immediate visceral resistance in that deep-seated, logical part of your mind. And this resistance, my friend, is entirely justified because your entire existence, up until this very moment, has been measured by the cold, calculating spiritual economy of merit and debt. The analytical engine in your brain is not prepared for the pure mechanism of grace that Cayce revealed. It is meticulously trained in celestial accountancy. It sees the past not as fluid history, but as an ironclad ledger filled with deficits, failures, and obligations waiting to be satisfied. I know this mind because I too have lived under the tyranny of the scale. I have watched you trying desperately to calculate the exact penance required. You measure your meditations, you count your good deeds, and you meticulously subtract your recent acts of kindness from the long list of mistakes that continue to haunt your memory. Convinced that if you just work hard enough, the universe will finally declare you square. Haven't you felt that deep, demoralizing fatigue that settles in when you realize that every good deed seems only to open the door to two new, complex karmic challenges? This fatigue, understand this clearly, is not the banal psychological burnout of a stressful life. It is the spiritual exhaustion born of attempting to settle infinite spiritual debts using a finite human currency. You are trying to pay the cosmos with pocket change, and your inner accountant knows the math will never balance. The world trains you to believe that if you owe $1, you must pay back $1. That is the foundational law of earthly reality, and we apply it mercilessly to our souls. But what if the law of the cosmos operates entirely differently from the law of the market? How many lifetimes have you already spent trying to manually balance the universal scale, only to find the principal amount seems to increase with every calculation? You feel, fundamentally, that you must earn forgiveness, you must merit freedom, and you believe that absolute peace is something granted only after arduous, decades-long spiritual labor. The problem is that the resistance you feel, the resistance that says it can't be that simple, is merely the echoing voice of the debt you are trying to abolish. Are you willing to admit, just for a moment, that your lifelong effort to pay off karma has left you feeling emptier and perhaps even deeper in spiritual debt than when you started? It is this acceptance of exhaustion that allows the true, simple and profound sign of Edgar Cayce to finally register. We must recognize that this debt-oriented mindset is the true illusion that must be dismantled before the grace sign can be activated, for the universe operates on a principle far older and more powerful than mere transactional balance. The universe operates on a principle far older and more powerful than mere transactional balance, and the proof of this radical system demands an authority beyond mere philosophical conjecture. To truly grasp the sign that rapidly cancels spiritual debt, we must establish a bridge between the unseen world and verifiable evidence. That bridge is built upon the life and work of the man known globally as the sleeping prophet, Edgar Cayce. I realize that the analytical engine of your mind, the part trained by centuries of scientific materialism, instinctively rejects claims of the miraculous. Your logic demands data, proof, and repeatability. And that, surprisingly, is exactly what we have. Cayce's authority does not rely on vague pronouncements or subjective experience. It rests on a colossal archive, over 14,000 documented, indexed and cross-referenced readings collected over 50 years. Think of that volume. 14,000 times this ordinary man, while in a self-induced trance state, described the immutable laws of existence, the nature of disease, the history of souls, and crucially, the specific, powerful mechanics of divine grace. These documented revelations are not simple faith. They are a comprehensive database mapping the subtle topography of the spiritual realm. He didn't just speculate about karma, he documented its structure, and far more importantly, the single secret rule that overrides it. The collective body of Cayce's work serves as the irrefutable evidence that the universe operates not primarily on the ledger of debt, the rigid accounting of cause and effect, but on the overwhelming force of agape, the unconditional love that requires no transaction for its delivery. This staggering volume of consistent, accurate information proves that your current challenge is not to laboriously pay off every single past mistake. That transactional mindset, the exhaustion you feel trying to manually balance the books, is merely an illusion perpetuated by limited understanding. Cayce's 14,000 readings confirm the existence of the grace sign, a mechanism of spiritual sovereignty that doesn't demand repayment, but total recognition of the gift already offered. Are you ready to stop dismissing this documented truth as mere historical curiosity and start treating it as the instruction manual for your highest destiny? The resistance you feel, that internal whisper that says, "It can't be that simple," is merely the residue of the debt-oriented mindset we came here to dismantle. The proof is conclusive. Now the choice remains. Will you continue wrestling with the exhaustive weight of the karmic ledger, or will you accept the documented, verifiable, and freely given decree of grace that Edgar Cayce spent a lifetime proving? You stand at a crossroads, where the road of historical debt meets the path of immediate freedom. But to even take that first step toward understanding the supreme sign of grace, we must first dismantle the deep, fear-based mythology surrounding one core spiritual concept: karma. I need you to understand this immediately. The entire architecture of the cosmos, as described by Cayce's hundreds of readings, is built on a foundation of divine law, yes, but its central mechanism is compassion, not punitive accounting. The logical mind, saturated with millennia of theological threats, instinctively fears karma as a cosmic sentence, a painful judgment waiting to be exacted upon your soul. This perspective is utterly inaccurate and tragically disempowering. Karma is not a judgment wielded by an angry, distant deity. It is pure physics. It is the inviolable law of cause and echo, operating perfectly and impersonally. Think of your actions, your thoughts, and your intentions not as sins to be logged, but as specific sounds reverberating through a vast, energetic canyon. If you shout negativity, the canyon faithfully returns negativity. If you radiate love, the exact same reflection is returned. The universe doesn't punish you. It simply returns your own vibration to you. This realization transforms your entire history. Are you carrying the exhausting weight of a lifetime of past mistakes because you genuinely believe a cruel ledger is being kept, or because you simply haven't learned how to shift the frequency of the canyon itself? The true game of the soul is elegantly simple, though its rules are often distorted by fear. You did not incarnate here merely to pay back past wrongs. You came here to learn to master frequency. Grace, in the Cayce cosmology, is far more than sentimental forgiveness. It is a massive, higher, purer frequency capable of instantly absorbing the lower vibration of the echo. It is the sonic wave so potent that it cancels the previous reverberations before they ever have a chance to return to you. Your skeptical mind might protest that this sounds too convenient, too easy, an escape hatch from spiritual responsibility. It should sound easy. The divine reality often defies human complexity because we are accustomed to creating endless loops of suffering where none are required by cosmic law. To recognize the specific, verifiable sign of grace, the one that Cayce detailed repeatedly, the one that instantly voids the karmic debt, you must first adjust your internal lens away from historical debt and toward present potential. When you confuse the inevitable echo of karma with malicious punishment, you remain paralyzed, repeating the same vibrational patterns. But when you recognize karma as mere energetic physics, you instantly gain the power to change the input. Grace is that intentional, massive shift in input. It is the proof that the universe cares less about what you did and infinitely more about what profound, activated identity you are becoming. Are you ready to stop focusing on the shadows of yesterday and instead activate the profound frequency that defines your sacred potential today? The true integration of grace requires more than merely wishing for divine intervention. It demands an active, vibrational realignment that shifts your entire blueprint. Edgar Cayce understood this mechanism intimately, affirming that grace is not a passive theological concept reserved only for the deeply pious. It is an accessible, high-frequency energy pattern. But if grace is meant to be a measurable input, how do you know with undeniable certainty that you have truly plugged into this current and are not just experiencing momentary good luck or fleeting emotional uplift? Your calculating mind demands proof, tangible, verifiable evidence that this profound shift is genuinely underway. I know the immediate response brewing within you. That cautious, pragmatic voice, built to keep you stable within the three-dimensional world, is already preparing to label these signs as coincidence, wishful thinking, or merely the desperate projection of a seeking mind. That analytical center struggles intensely with the architecture of the soul. But I must guide you past that resistance. We are not searching for superficial blessings, trivial coincidences, or circumstantial good fortune. We are identifying 5 precise, undeniable shifts in your inner landscape and outer reality, signals that confirm your receiving dial has been firmly tuned to the operational frequency of grace. These are not random spiritual feel-goods. They are the systemic, predictable consequences of a deliberate energetic realignment that Cayce catalogued across thousands of readings. Have you noticed lately that the old worries, the heavy chains of anxiety or guilt that you used to drag through every waking moment, seem strangely, inexplicably lighter? Cayce provided a clear map of these 5 inconfutable signals. I ask you to consider them the 5 distinct points where the cosmic intention intersects with your personal trajectory, actively pulling you free from the magnetic resonance of past errors. Each signal you recognize in your own experience is a confirmation that the universal ledger is being reviewed, not with cold judgment, but with overwhelming, targeted compassion. These signs illuminate the profound pathway where genuine human effort finally meets effortless divine flow, the place where the struggling soul is finally allowed to exhale completely. I promise you that as we systematically unpack the first 4 signs, you will begin to recognize patterns in your personal history and current circumstance that you previously dismissed as mere quirks or accidents of timing. But it is the 5th sign, the final, most transformative and often overlooked signal, that acts as the ultimate energetic solvent. This specific activated identity shift, Cayce revealed, holds the secret to dissolving deeply ingrained karmic debt faster than years of traditional penance, meditative discipline, or ritualistic suffering. It is not something you passively wait for, it is the frequency you actively become. Are you ready to move beyond the shadows of history and embrace the profound present identity that Cayce assures you is the key to dissolving the past? Let us now begin the profound catalogue of these 5 unmistakable signs, starting with the first subtle yet immensely powerful alteration in your personal energetic field. The first and perhaps most confusing shift that Cayce identified in those dissolving heavy karmic debts is what he termed the transmutation of remorse. I know the word remorse immediately sounds heavy, punitive, and painful. Your mind recoils, anticipating the deep, self-flagellating guilt society often enforces. That calculating part of your brain already wants to discard this because it fears pain. But you must understand this crucial difference. We are not talking about neurotic, soul-crushing guilt. We are discussing a specific energetic state of light relief and profound clarity. Guilt holds you paralyzed, forcing you to rehearse the error endlessly in a loop of self-condemnation. It is a psychological weight designed to punish and keep you small. True, spiritually functional remorse, however, is a momentary recognition of misalignment, followed by an immediate, weightless sense of correction. It is the soul's internal navigation system recalculating the optimal route, not a judge delivering a life sentence. When this profound shift occurs, you look back at past mistakes and, instead of feeling the debilitating dread that used to consume you, you feel a quiet, profound sense of gratitude for the lesson learned, coupled with the absolute certainty that you are now incapable of repeating that specific error. This is not apathy or coldness, it is energetic liberation from the past's gravitational pull. Have you recently noticed a memory of a painful past action suddenly losing its crushing emotional charge, transforming into mere informative data instead of a crippling injury? That is the sign activating within you. This leads us directly to the second, and perhaps the fastest acting manifestation of active grace, the window of impeccability. This is where the logical mind truly struggles, because it hears the word impeccability and assumes we are demanding saintly moralism achieved through strained, endless effort. We are not. Impeccability, as defined by Cayce's readings, is not a state of manufactured perfection. It is a sudden, perfect alignment. It's an instantaneous internal knowing where the path of highest truth becomes utterly clear and functionally unavoidable. Think of your ordinary state of consciousness as being trapped in a perpetually dark room. You know the outside world exists, but every action you take is fumbling, shadowed by old habits and unseen objects, which are simply layers of karmic residue. The window of impeccability is when, for a brief, luminous moment, the sun bursts through a previously hidden opening, illuminating the entire room instantly. You don't have to try to be good or moralistic. You simply cannot conceive of acting out of alignment during that flash. The decision to choose the higher path is made without conflict, doubt, or struggle. It is pure flow. Cayce assures us that these moments, these sudden, brief flashes of complete internal honesty and congruence, are exponentially more powerful than years spent struggling because they achieve instantaneous energetic congruence. It is in this window that massive karmic debts are wiped clean, not through punishment, but through absolute presence. Do you trust the moments when your inner compass points true north, even if the direction makes no immediate worldly sense. Recognize these precious flashes. They are the true architecture of grace forming within your identity, inviting you to step fully into the practice of effortless alignment. The greatest, most profound evidence that you are operating within a field of accelerated grace, the kind of spiritual maturity Edgar Cayce observed in those ready for swift karmic release, is the sudden, quiet cessation of the fight for proof. We are talking about the third unmistakable sign, the internal alchemical surrender of the desperate need to be right. I understand what the calculating mind is doing right now. It is screaming that relinquishing the fight means defeat, that letting go of the intellectual arsenal means you are weak or susceptible to manipulation. But I promise you, this is precisely where the old logic fails to measure the spiritual architecture. You see, the need to be right, to always justify your experience, your belief, or your perspective, is the most exhausting expenditure of karmic energy the ego performs. It is an endless legal battle where the ego is the lawyer, constantly defending a self that doesn't actually need defense. When grace truly settles, the entire dynamic shifts. The need to externalize validation, the desperate hunting for an agreement or affirmation from someone else that confirms your truth, simply vanishes. What happens when someone challenges your deepest conviction? Do you feel the old familiar heat rising in your chest, demanding that you formulate the perfect, undeniable retort? Or is there a cool, expansive certainty that holds your truth without needing to force the world to agree with it? This distinction is critical. We are not talking about apathy or choosing to be passive out of simple exhaustion or avoidance. This transformation is the profound realization that your truth is self-authenticating, like sunlight that doesn't require a witness to prove its brilliance. The very moment you stop fighting to prove your worth or your correctness, that energy, previously trapped in conflict and defense, becomes pure, usable fuel for your highest purpose. It is the greatest single debt cancellation you can perform. The direct test, the one that measures the true density of your spiritual essence, is this: who are you when you no longer need to defend yourself? Who remains when the shield of the ego, that brittle, heavy structure built on past grievances and future fears, is effortlessly dropped? Cayce taught that you are finally the self you were meant to be. This is the moment when the essence emerges, no longer subservient to the argument. Observe your interactions today. When challenged, does your energy contract into a knot of defense, or does it expand into a space of understanding and acceptance, knowing that your inner alignment requires no external witness? The path to rapid karmic clearing is paved not with arguments won, but with arguments effortlessly released. Will you choose to pick up the shield, or will you accept the weightless power of simply knowing? The weightless power of simply knowing culminates in the fifth and perhaps most elusive sign, that the great cosmic ledger of your soul is not merely balanced, but has been wiped clean by an act of grace. The signal that your karmic dissolution is complete, that the past has lost its magnetic pull on your future, is not the sudden arrival of an external miracle. I know your logical mind, trained by a culture that demands physical proof, is already searching for the lottery win, the dramatic healing, or the enemy suddenly struck silent. It wants spectacle. But I must reveal the profound truth told repeatedly in the Cayce readings. The final sign is the unwavering internal certainty that all is well. This peace is not the absence of external trouble, it is the sublime, unshakable presence of stillness within the trouble. Picture the ocean during a violent hurricane. The surface is chaos, ships are tossed, waves break against the sky. But miles beneath that violent churning, the deepest currents remain absolutely motionless. You, the soul, are the deep current. The superficial chaos you observe is merely the final necessary wake of old debts and lessons playing out on the surface of your material life. If the storm rages, but your center remains anchored, you have achieved the state of karmic cancellation. How do you react when the truly frightening news arrives? The diagnosis, the betrayal, the sudden financial ruin. Does your energy contract into a primal knot of fear and frantic control? Or does it, astonishingly, expand into a quiet, almost observational acceptance, understanding that this challenge too is temporary and ultimately instructional? That expansion is the sign. We must distinguish this sacred certainty from mere spiritual bypassing or denial. Denial ignores the problem. This ultimate sign observes the problem, acknowledges its pain, but refuses to surrender its spiritual trajectory to its material reality. This certainty is the deepest form of trust, the resignation that the universe is not acting on you, but working through you. It is the point where you stop fighting the process and start simply flowing with it, knowing that even the worst apparent outcome is aligned with your soul's highest good. This is what Edgar Cayce defined as the ultimate grace, finding yourself utterly at peace on the deck of a sinking ship, not because you are delusional, but because you know that the soul cannot sink. Do you feel this internal assurance growing? This strange, quiet confidence that whispers thank you even to suffering? This is the sound of your karma dissolving into light. Are you ready to stop searching for external validation and finally accept the unburdened power of absolute inner stillness? True inner stillness, the kind we have just discovered together, is not a final destination, but the launch pad. The crucial mistake many seekers make, the one that keeps them trapped in cycles of learning without being, is confusing stillness with passive surrender. I know your logical mind is already asking, but how do I do the grace? How do I ensure I anchor this higher frequency in my immediate physical life without slipping back into the habitual worry of debt? That analytical demand for a complex 12-step plan is precisely the resistance we must bypass, because grace, by definition, is not earned. It is received. Edgar Cayce offered an immediate integration block that bypasses the ego's relentless need for inventory and self-flagellation. I call it the mirror ritual of acceptance. This is not a vain exercise in superficial self-affirmation, where you simply pump yourself up with empty praise, nor is it a dark, agonizing night of the soul, where you list every transgression from the past week and calculate the reparations due. That is the exhausting human path of self-improvement rooted in guilt and deficiency. Instead, this practice is the spiritual act of claiming your inherent, divinely wired completeness. It is the declaration that the debt is settled because the lesson is internalized. Tonight, before you lay down to sleep, stand before any mirror, a bathroom mirror, a small compact, it doesn't matter. Your sole task is to engage in pure, unfiltered sight. Do not list your mistakes. Do not analyze your progress. Do not assign blame or credit. Look deeply into your own eyes, past the fleeting worries and the tired mask you wear for the world, and with the deepest sincerity your soul can muster, simply say, I accept this learning. I accept the path that brought me here. I am complete in this moment. You are not declaring that you are flawless. You are declaring that the energy that brought you here, the failures, the successes, the accumulated pain, is sufficient to move forward without karmic obligation. This immediate radical acceptance creates an energetic vacuum. Grace rushes in to fill that space because the high frequency of grace simply cannot coexist with the low, grinding frequency of self-judgment. Do you understand the monumental difference between analyzing your errors and merely accepting the finished lesson? Have you truly looked at yourself without the filter of performance? When you perform this ritual, you're not negotiating with karma. You are overriding it with a superior spiritual law. Karma operates on the principle of cause and effect, the detailed ledger of debt. Grace, however, operates on the principle of immediate, unearned redemption. Think of your karma as dirt on a surface. If you instantly accept the dirt as part of the lesson and cleanse the spot without listing how many particles were there, the debt disappears because the teaching has been internalized. The moment you declare, I am complete right now, you stop operating as a victim or a debtor, and you start operating as a recipient of divine frequency. The heavy burden you carry, the constant feeling that you must earn your right to peace, is merely the resistance to this simple, profound acceptance. I invite you tonight to cease being the tired student desperately trying to pass the test and step fully into the identity of the master who knows the answer was always within you. You have stood at this threshold many times before, haven't you? That internal calculator, that skeptical part of you, has absorbed the data, the subtle patterns of grace and the mechanics of karmic liberation revealed through the Cayce readings. But simply absorbing data is merely intellectual assent. It is not embodiment. That is the critical difference between the perpetual student and the awakened master. The true shift, the accelerated dissolution of ancient burdens, requires an act of conscious, external declaration. The universe responds not to silent understanding, but to resonant action. Consider this final, powerful act not as a mere digital interaction, but as the moment you sign the contract with the cosmos, sealing your intent to operate perpetually from the frequency of receiving, rather than the exhausting cycle of endlessly striving. When you allow this profound truth, that you are worthy of immediate liberation, to fully integrate, everything changes, often within 3 days of true acceptance. Are you willing to permanently drop the heavy mantle of the karmic debtor and pick up the light flowing cloak of the divine recipient? If the revelation we have explored, this profound understanding of grace as an energetic law, rather than just an abstract theological concept, has stirred the ancient depths of your soul, then you now carry a profound, sacred obligation. You are not meant to hoard this light. When you choose to share this message with others, you're not simply clicking a button for an algorithm. You are actively extending the field of non-judgmental acceptance to someone else who might still be wrestling alone in the dark pit of unnecessary karmic debt. Are there people in your life right now, those you deeply love, whose burdens you feel, who desperately need to hear that they are not permanently damned by past errors? They need to know that the door of divine vibrational acceptance is open right now, and that their struggle is not permanent. Help them find this release. Subscribe now to continue charting the precise topography of your own divine blueprint with us, and ensure these crucial life-altering insights reach you consistently. But listen closely, because this is the necessary critical seal of your intent. To finalize this energetic commitment, to tangibly broadcast your shift from struggle to reception, you must go to the comments below and type the simple, powerful, and utterly liberating word: grace. This is not a trivial demand. This word is the verbal activation key that shifts the dynamic of your entire relationship with existence. It is the definitive permission slip you grant yourself to stop punishing the self you once were, and to fully embrace the identity of the redeemed, liberated soul you truly are. Do this, and watch the subtle, magnificent architecture of your reality realign. The grace you seek is the grace you declare. Declare it now. The moment you spoke those words, the inner ledger was not merely balanced, it was incinerated. You must now fully internalize this seismic shift. Your existence is no longer defined by the gravity of past errors, the weight of what you owe, which is the universal trap of debt consciousness, but by the soaring trajectory of present intention and declared freedom. This is not simple psychological self-help, where you merely reframe your narrative to feel better. This is spiritual jurisprudence, where the highest law, the law of instantaneous divine grace, overrides every prior contract forged in fear. Feel the difference in your energetic posture right now. Notice the subtle, magnificent absence of that invisible, crushing weight you subconsciously carried for years. For too long, you carried the memory of debt and lack like heavy, familiar armor, believing it was protection, or perhaps necessary accountability. It wasn't. It was the chains you mistook for your own skin. Now, that armor is gone. Do you feel the remarkable lightness settling into your shoulders? Is there a new expansive space around your chest where that constant low-grade anxiety used to reside? That immediate somatic response is the first verifiable sign that the past has released its claim upon your future. Your journey is not complete until this truth moves from an abstract concept you heard on a screen into a tangible, lived reality you practice moment by moment. You are no longer the weary, striving soul trying to earn its way back to wholeness. You are the whole, liberated being, choosing how and where to express its inherent goodness. The question before you now is no longer, how do I finally pay off the rest of my soul debt? But rather, what does a completely liberated soul do next with this abundance of energy and time? Go. Look at your life, the relationships, the commitments, the mundane challenges, the deepest dreams, and view them all through the eyes of this new sovereignty. This is the integration phase. Stop looking for signs that you have been forgiven. Start living as the sign of forgiveness. Let me leave you with the core mantra that Cayce's wisdom ultimately gifts us, a declaration to anchor this new, weightless identity. I am not what I owe. I am what I choose. This is your new practice. Every morning, before your feet touch the floor, remind yourself, I am not a debtor striving for light. I am the light, choosing where to shine. The universe is fundamentally engineered to treat you exactly as you treat yourself. If you step out the door today still carrying the shadows of your former, indebted self, the world will mirror that shadow back to you in unnecessary friction and delay. But if you walk forth as the embodiment of instantaneous grace, free, unburdened, and wholly accepted, then the karmic winds shift immediately to fill your sails. The debt is gone. The slate is clear. This is the ultimate promise of the sleeping prophet. Your redemption was never contingent on perfect suffering, but on your perfect acceptance of the divine amnesty already offered. Go and live what you are. Go and be the undeniable, magnificent proof that grace works.